Hi, my name's Jo Hadley. This is my podcast, Being a Human Lighthouse. I'm a somatic counselor and energy medicine practitioner. I'm passionate about science and spirituality and how that can create true health and healing within our body and our lives. It's interesting that the more our body is in health, often the rest of our lives are in balance as well. This doesn't mean that our lives have no challenges, that bad things or what we ascribe to or perceive as bad disappear. It's more that we have a different framework through which to perceive what's happening to us, new tools and levels of consciousness that we can use to view and to see the challenges and how we overcome them. Often challenges are guides and signs for us that we're out of balance and need to do something different. There can be signs and indicators of which way to go or which way not to go. One thing I learnt long ago is nothing is absolute. Trying to describe things to people, I often say, it can be so simple. It is simple, but once I start talking, it just becomes these infinite different angles to look at, to explain, and I can never get to explain the whole. We're only ever seeing things from our particular perspective or the level of consciousness that we're at. And our level of consciousness is an energy level. It depends upon how much of our ancestral and individual traumas and patterns we've managed to become aware of and integrate and learn to surrender. I, I've often used the word overcome, but overcome can also be problematic. Some of the words we use cannot be fully descriptive because to overcome something, it's often we just have to become aware, feel, let it go, and we become more aware of a different way of looking at the situation or circumstance. Thus, is a shift and a raising in a particular energy and vibration and frequency with which we are living. We can have different levels of consciousness for different areas of our life. We can be hugely conscious within maybe relationships, but really have low consciousness in some other area of our life. It's always changing, always in flux. There's nothing absolute. We can have a high level of consciousness in one area one day and see things differently and low another. I've often found lately that I can be feeling really low, really down, and just really concerned about what's going on in my life. Yet a few hours later, nothing has changed in my life, yet I don't feel the same way. I'm feeling optimistic, positive, more energetically vibrant. So our levels of consciousness can shift up and down within even the same area of our life. Nothing is absolute. I used to joke when I was younger that just when I thought I knew everything, I didn't. And I kind of get that. Sometimes with the jokes I used to say when I was young, I see the absolute wisdom in them that I actually didn't know that I had then, but I see the wisdom in what I said. Because sometimes I would think, oh man, I've learned so much, I'm really wise, and then suddenly just feel like I know nothing. And this is what happens when we're healing and when we're growing. Within a level, we are learning more, we're expanding, and we do feel like we're getting higher. We feel like we're expanding. We feel wiser. We feel more knowledgeable. We feel lighter. And then almost like an electron being shifted to another level in science, that a shift of energy, a sudden certain amount of energy will shift that electron to another level. So it is with our life as well. When we get to a certain level in a problem, we've accumulated enough expansion, enough consciousness, boom, we get triggered almost like a quantum leap into an ever higher level to which we're at the bottom and where we can feel a bit overwhelmed and feel like, oh God, we're back. Nothing is the same as what it was. The same tools don't always work as well because we have to progress and evolve the tools and how we use them. It said, I saw something today, I read an article where someone was writing that on the consciousness inner journey, the healing journey, the road less traveled, what I'm talking about, what a lot of people are talking about these days, what I think is the next great evolutionary step in humanity is all of us have to turn inward, raise our internal consciousness, awareness, and energy levels, and get higher perspectives of ourselves and of life. And because in quantum science, it's proven that the world is not just linear and can in local, and it is all non-local and all connected. Even though we may be vast distances from other people, what we do can still affect them. What they do can still affect us. We don't always perceive it individually, but we can feel it energetically and it can change us. When I see the issues of the world and some of the big problems that are happening, I know that it involves all of us, even if it's not in my backyard. And I know that we're all connected. And so I know my particular way of assisting the world is if I can raise my consciousness even a little bit, it helps lift everyone. And every time we lift consciousness, we get a higher level of awareness. And eventually, if enough of us get a higher level of awareness, a lot of the more unpleasant aspects of human life, like wars, destruction, unhealthy competition, hurting others, will become a thing of the past because we will realize that as we hurt another, as we do something to another, we also do it to ourselves. And the chaos I sometimes feel within, it may not be necessarily related to what's happening in my outer world. I can be picking up what's happening in the collective. So again, I try to turn inwards and tune into myself. And I try to just become peaceful, feel compassion, send my compassion to the areas of the world that I feel need it, and send love and light, and concentrate on feeling the love, light, and compassion within myself. For when I change myself, I change everything. Change one, change all. And as Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see. Because when we're all connected, every time one of us gets a bit higher in consciousness, it helps everybody else. And by being upset and worried and nervous and stressed about what's happening to other people that I can't physically do anything about, doesn't help because that just adds to the lowering of consciousness, the distortion of energy. So my joy, my peace, my compassion can be the most important thing to contribute to the world. And ultimately, it's the only thing I have any control over. That said, I think I was about to talk about an article I read which talked about how being on this path, you had to go inwards and be alone and be away from others. And while I don't necessarily think this is incorrect, it made me automatically want to answer, not always, because nothing's absolute. Yes, the more we become conscious and aware, we often do have to turn inwards. We do have to have moments of reflection and silence, perhaps meditation. Perhaps we do have to withdraw from others. Yes, we do have to. spend time alone to tune in more to ourselves. Absolutely, 100%. But we also don't heal in isolation. We also don't heal alone. We heal ourselves. It all has to come from within us, but we need others. I think I heard this expressed first, which opened my mind to it many years ago by Dr. Lissa Rankin. She wrote a book, it was Mind Over Medicine, I think, where she said, we all have to heal ourselves, but we don't heal alone. So life is a paradox. And even when I was younger, I always saw the paradoxes in life. And within this article today, I could see the paradox. Yes, we need to go inwards. We need some silence. We need some inner peace. We need to connect to ourselves. Absolutely. It is the most important aspect. But we also need others. We need others to mirror back to us and see our own reflection. Because as we perceive others, we're only perceiving them as we perceive them within our own mind. And we also need other people to reflect back to us, to challenge us, to push us, and to support us. When we're healing somatically and listening to the body, it's been shown just to have a witness, an observer, someone safe and present to witness your pain, to witness what's going on within you, and to allow you to feel safe, seen, and heard is possibly the most important element of any healing. But yes, we also do need to be able to sit alone, to tune into our own sensations, to learn to safely regulate ourselves, to be comfortable with our own company. And there's also a caveat about the people we need in our lives to reflect back to us. Of course, we need to step away from the people who have a lower level of consciousness, who don't have that perception that we are developing or have. To talk and try to get assistance from someone with a lower level of consciousness will only create more havoc and disharmony within ourselves because that person cannot possibly understand. No, through no fault of their own, they're not at that level. I describe it as like if you're in grade 12 at school and you're trying to talk to someone in kindergarten, that kindergartner is not going to be able to give you very sound advice or even understand what you're going through or what you're telling them. So when we heal, when we need this compassionate witness, this compassionate presence to help us heal, it has to be someone of equal or higher consciousness level. And this is what gets tougher as the higher up we go with this consciousness and awareness work. It can be lonely because there's not so many people who have attained these levels. The good news is there's more and more people at a faster rate getting there because, as I truly believe, we're all on this path. I started quite early, and of course, my early momentum was quite slow because there was no internet. There was no one to talk to or reflect off or in to hear higher levels of consciousness or ideas. It had to come through books. And sometimes these books were hard to find or to come across because there weren't very many out there. But especially in the last 5 years, everything is exponentially increasing at a rapid rate. I'm on Substack and I constantly see lots of people with similar podcasts, similar postings, all on the same topic. It's becoming a bigger, more accepted way of talking, way of living, way of being, and being understood. A lot of people in my environment that I still live in have no idea what I'm talking about half the time. They don't understand consciousness work or the type of work I'm at. But around the world, more and more people are developing this skill. It's a natural human innate skill that we'll all get to eventually. It's all a process. And some people start early, others take it up later. But the more people who take it up, the momentum becomes faster and faster. And that's what I'm seeing now. And that's really gratifying. I'm getting older, of course, having been one of the, I wouldn't say first people in the path. I'm sure there's plenty of people decades ahead of me. But having been an early uptaker and just slowly meandering my way through this spiritual inner journey, it's exciting to see how people are younger and understanding so much earlier, so much quicker, so much deeper. I have found it a lonely path at times to walk when people don't understand or haven't done the same work. Because once you see things from a higher perspective, you can drop yourself down. But generally, once you see things from a higher perspective, you can't go back. If you try to fit in with a higher perspective, it just makes you really discontent and unhappy. I find that a lot in my life. I can tell when I'm being squashing myself or squashing my soul into a box. And at times I have to do that still because I'm still learning. All of us are on a path, and there's certain aspects of my journey I still have yet to learn. My particular issues that I still have to overcome. There we go. There's that word again. Or integrate the energies that I still need to become aware of and see. And at times I'm aware that I sometimes still squash myself into a box a little bit to fit in. I aim to do that less and less, but it's very encouraging to see more people on this path, open to higher spiritual truths, not doubting them or questioning them because they're true. It's interesting that synchronistically, I was led to the work of Dr. Lisa Miller. A couple of podcasts I listened to had her as a guest, and I'm currently almost finished her book. And her research shows that we are inherently wired for spirituality, that we have this third of us is just, it's about a 30% part is genetic and 2/3 is environment. Having spiritual connection is really important for health, especially helping when we have some forms of depression. And it helps us in various challenges. So her research, where I love science and spirituality, is a lot of the things that have been taught and understood from a spiritual or Eastern mysticism perspective are now getting scientific validation, which makes it easier to teach others, to allow others to become aware of it. Because there's always been this woo-woo like the science community's often been very anti-spiritual connection. Since the 1600s or 1500s, there have been this disconnection between the body, mind, and soul. So it's really great to see that there's so much research out there. It's irrefutable that body, mind, and spirit all work in together, and that MRIs and many other tools have shown that developing spiritual awareness and having a strong sense of something bigger than ourselves is actually very protective against suffering some forms of depression and minimizing the risk of substance or other addiction, substance abuse or other addictive patterns. And through my life, I've learned this through experience. So when I read it and see the research backs it up, to me it's a no-brainer because I've lived over the past decades different patterns. I've had a mother with severe anxiety and depression. I've had a father who was an alcoholic. And I was aware already at a very young age how these get passed on and how it could be easy for me to develop the same issues. And I was very aware that my spiritual beliefs, even though I felt that no one around me believed them either, thank you, Shelley MacLaine, for making me feel that I wasn't the only one, that these spiritual beliefs did help me. So it's really great to see that research is just proving that. There is that science part of my brain because I did go to university. I went down a very medically orientated, Western medicine orientated training. So that taught me to be very critical, very suspicious. So I've often had this internal conflict between the science and the spirituality. But my heart has always, always led me to the spiritual, even though I've had to do it privately, secretly, and not talk about it most of the time. So now I tell people, because I'm quite happy that there's enough research out there in quantum science and in other sciences that are helping just show that this is part of being human. Over eons, we have developed these energies that have lowered our consciousness level. And now, as we become more aware, we're allowing ourselves to understand how we can let go of these dense energies and lower consciousness levels that have been passed down from generation to generation. It's early days, but I'm very optimistic about future generations, especially now as we have these tools that each of us can use. And they're very powerful. In some cases, they can be very quick. Sometimes we still need the assistance of a therapist. But there's a lot we can do ourselves. So it's really heartening. And again, the more work we do, it becomes easier for the people who are following. You can see this today. It's like I struggle sometimes with computers because most of my life apart from basic word processing and doing basic note taking, I haven't been very interested in computers. And it's interesting, everyone jokes, and it's true, that if you have a computer problem, give it to a young person, they just instinctively know. Because I think it's just as like the 100th monkey theory. The more we learn, it just is automatically uploaded into the oneness of consciousness that we're all connected to. And those who follow, it's not that hard for them to plug in to this new energy. It's just hard for those people at the beginning who are doing the initial learning. So yes, we do need time alone. We do need to reflect. We do need to tune into ourselves. Sometimes we may need to remove ourselves from other people as we go inward and cultivate this new awareness and learn to let go of our traumas and patterns. But often we also need people of the same or higher level of consciousness to assist us on this journey. I think when I read this article, it made me realize that what I crave mostly at the moment is people of the same or higher levels of consciousness to assist me, because it is really hard. I find that I have developed my level so I can help, with my clients, I help, and with friends, but I haven't got too many that can actually really sit with me and be an observer or a compassionate witness, and that which allows my system then to heal on this deeper level. What I've learned recently is you really do need someone of a higher level of consciousness. And that gets harder to find because there's not many people that have this yet. So I'm always deeply grateful when I find a friend or a therapist that can hold space deep enough for what I need at this point in time. I was talking to someone this past week, and they were very aware of, they were excited that they were aware that their different conditions and issues and medical conditions were related to stress. But just on a few questions, I realized that, okay, they've got to level one, this awareness. So the next level, there's these different levels of awareness. And the next level is to then question what's underneath those patterns, what's underneath those sensations, what's underneath the anxiety, what's underneath those stress reactions, what's in the past, generationally or individually, these patterns that are driving that, what's underneath it, the root cause. So as I was talking to this person, I realized, it was more I realized about myself, of how far I'd come, because I used to love just having these talks with people. Then I realized, okay, they've just started. They don't understand this next level. And I realized you cannot, people have to be ready. So I can just assist and encourage and support where someone's at. But I noticed, I tend to ask deeper questions these days. I want to go into and under this first level. I want to get to the consciousness. I see that there's a spiritual connection. We need to integrate some spirituality, some understanding that the mind, body, and soul, that a deeper meaning and purpose around us, a oneness is there. And that's a different level to what a lot of people start at. So I realized, I've actually gone up quite a few levels, because it's hard to know our own progress at times. We can still be in the same spot physically. We can look out the same window as when we had low levels of consciousness, as we do when we have higher levels of consciousness. We just see it from a different perspective, energetically. At times I think that nothing has changed, but it's when I have these conversations or I meet someone from my past that I realize, I've come a very long way with the work I've done. Hopefully, this isn't ego talking. It's more just a perception and a recognition of what happens when we do this work. I by no means am intending to imply I'm greater than anyone else. It's a stage. I've just realized that at times I get very despondent and down, that nothing changes, that life is the same. But then when I have these relational interactions with other people, whether it's meeting an old friend I hadn't seen for 10 years and realizing how I used to work 10 years ago to where I am today, or whether it's someone else who's telling me where they're at, and I'm recognizing, I've actually left that stage behind and I'm now 2 or 3 levels down the road. And it makes me wonder, because we can never see the road ahead where we haven't gone yet. We just see this dark emptiness of the unknown that looks scary. Maybe that's my perception. We just see this dark emptiness ahead, or that's what I see. So I don't know what I don't know. So I wonder what the next levels are. And I often wonder if I recognize getting to the next levels. But that's probably getting too philosophical for this talk today. Well, that's where I'm going to leave it today. I may not do my mini meditation. I will just leave this talk as it is and just allow you to ponder the paradoxes in your own life, where you need silence and where you need interaction with others. To notice that life is not black and white, that is grey, we need both sides. It's a paradox. We need to be healing ourselves and doing the work ourselves because no one else can do it for us. Yet we often need the assistance of another person, a witness, or someone like myself who is a somatic counselor or a trauma therapist, or sometimes you may need another type of practitioner. Just ponder the paradoxes in your life. It makes me humble to think about the paradoxes because it brings me back to that idea of just when I think I've got it, no, I don't. But that's a sign, usually, that we've jumped to the next level and we're in the beginner phase again. Because we're forever going from beginner to advanced levels. And that's where I am on my journey. Where are you on your journey? I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now.